All right. It is September 15th, and on a beautiful Sunday, me and these two handsomely ugly dudes in front of you, this is who I get to podcast with. It's a great day to be alive. Yes. Yes, it
Yes,
is.
I'm extra ugly today, as you might be able to see, because I was cut open a few days ago.
Yes,
That's
you have a
just
smiley face on your neck.
yeah,
Yeah,
you have
I
a double
did.
smile. Just
Yeah. See, it's like it's
You
all the
change it
ladies
into a
want to
frown.
all the ladies want to see the double smile.
yeah. So for those who may not know, I don't know how many times I've ever referred to it. I had to have my thyroid gland taken out nearly 4 years ago, um, and that's where they cut in. And then just this past week, they had to go back in to remove a lymph node that was showing signs of being cancerous. So they just went back in through the same incision. So obviously that's why it's much more bright and obvious right now. But usually over the time, it has just kind of blended in, and you usually can't really tell it's there unless you're looking for it. But right now, it's pretty obvious.
She's got a double
Usually wears
smile.
makeup on to make it look very natural.
No, I do not use any artificial embellishments.
Embellishments.
I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not somebody who looks completely different. Um, when they're out in public in front
I
of the
like your
cameras
filters.
versus when they're behind the scenes, like Rhea Ripley does. You can sometimes never even recognize her when she's not on camera. It's like without
Well,
the lipstick and everything. So
when you look like you're the goddess of the dungeons on TV, and then you wipe off all that makeup and go out in normal life, yeah, you probably do not look recognizable.
Oh, I'd
Yes,
recognize her. It'd be
I say
great.
goddess of the dungeons. Yes.
goddess of the dungeons, how do I
Is
hide
the
this?
I, s-
Goddess of
I
the
did. I
Fake. It
didn't
goddess of
doesn't
the
say. I didn't say
underground.
belong.
you look like the god. I said when she talking
Yeah,
about
Pat, your
Oh,
her.
oh,
filters are horrible. You need
I
to get new
didn't hear you say
filters.
she. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You need to get some more fakish looking filters. They're looking too realistic these days.
I guess.
Stop going for the all natural look. It's not cliche anymore. Come on.
Evidently, that
Apparently
is
not.
a big. I don't want to say problem, but on dating sites
Oh yeah.
nowadays, it is a very big concern for people because they're like, well, are they using a filter? Is it a real filter? Because some people are meeting up with people off these dating apps and finding out that these people look nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. Don't look as good as advertised because, oh, they had a filter on when they took that picture, which made their skin look clearer. They didn't have any wrinkles. Their hair was fuller, for guys. Maybe their hair had better hair, and they're kind of baldish like myself. Um,
Put a
maybe made
toupee
them look
filter on for
skinnier.
you.
The filter made them look skinnier, and they're a little bit heavier than their picture. And it's just, it's like
Oh man.
and not to say there's a problem with dating apps, whatever that if that's what you use
There's
to
a
be able
problem
to
with
meet
dating
people,
apps.
that is what it is. But it definitely shows the days in which you would go to a club. Not to say that that was the best place to meet people either, but
But it was
you
fun.
would go you would go to a club, you'd meet people, and the only thing you could tell was definitely done up was the amount of makeup on the women that you were talking to or seeing there at the club. Um, and most guys that I knew did not wear any makeup. They just dressed nicer when they went to the club. So there wasn't a whole lot to hide. I did find out though, as from my wife and her friends, that um, girls, if they're feeling a little uncomfortable in the attire that they're wearing, they will wear an undergarment called Spanx, which tightens everything up and keeps it in place. I did not know that, so
You're
that
just
was an
finding out about
interesting
that
thing.
now?
No, I knew about it for years. I'm just, when I started dating my wife, I did
Oh,
not know
okay.
about that. So we're talking 19 years ago that I did not
Oh,
know
okay.
that women did that.
Okay. You're confusing me. I was like, wait, where's he going with this?
I'm not sure he's the most
So,
reliable narrator on this. I think he could be bullshitting us.
so,
Oh, it's
so,
all
needless to
good.
say, I was not one that ever got together with a woman at the bar and then took her back to my place. So I never discovered that on my own. So I
I
was
never
kind of the
done that.
sidekick when we went out.
Oh,
My
you were the
buddy was,
wingman? You were the
yeah, I
wingman?
ended up being the wingman a lot. And that was probably because as I look back on those days and the fun that we had, because it was fun going out and having, watching live bands and dancing and all that stuff. I realized that I probably walked around with a poo poo face on a lot and did not make myself the most attractive person in the room. Where my buddy, he was better at, having
Socializing.
a pleasant facial expression. He was a little bit taller than me too. So, that also goes into play too. As much as women say, maybe some women will say height doesn't matter. It definitely does because women don't necessarily gravitate towards shorter men, and I am on the shorter side. Not that I'm tiny, but I am definitely on the shorter side at 5'8". I always
Yeah.
find it.
Isn't that pretty much average?
I think average is like 5'10", so I'm a little
Oh,
below average.
Yeah, that's
Average is
around
definitely not
5'10".
6 foot. It could be 6 foot now, but I don't think so because I still come across a lot of people that are shorter than me. So
Let's
they
let's
definitely
let's
bring the average down.
let's let's Google
big
what the
me.
average height these days are.
And then,
Isn't
of
Um,
we're still
course, I got
acceptable,
you
big me?
two as friends who are 6'2" and 6'4", freaking giants.
Yes, it's
um,
fun. It's fun towering over you.
um, yeah, the good old days. I that makes me think. Remember what I did back in the day?
Tread carefully. Your wife might be listening.
Hmm, wow. I'll keep those to myself. I don't want to
I'm sure
divulge
she's
too
no
much.
stranger to Joe's debauching nights of debauchery.
Listen, I will say this.
Hollywood Nights.
I will say this. My nights of debauchery is extremely limited. Extremely. Um,
Really got up to pseudo debauchery.
yeah, I would say so. It looks like the average height is roughly 5'9"
Okay.
currently.
See, I thought for sure I heard somebody say it was 5'8", so that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, it's 5'9" currently. Um, my debauchery, yeah, I think it's very few and far between. So back in the day, I was the first of my core group of friends to turn 21. So at that time, I had gone to, like, my dad had taken me out to the bar with some of his coworkers. And then when I was working at Kmart back in the day, I was going to the bar with two of my coworkers, my manager, um, and then one of my other coworkers. Yes. So they were, how old were they? They were like, I'm 21 and they were both, one was in their 40s, early 40s at the time, and the other one was mid to late 30s. So I was, they were taking me out to certain places. So my friends started like catching up, being 21 and whatnot. I was hanging out with those guys. So and they weren't crazy. Like we weren't doing anything off the wall. And even when I turned 21, I ended up becoming the guy who was like, I couldn't enjoy myself at the bar or the club as much as I wanted to because the friends I was hanging out with were always getting stupid drunk, there was always something going on. So I felt like I had to keep myself I was drinking, but I had to keep myself sober enough to make sure these jabroni asses were fucking safe getting home and all that other bullshit. So like I was like a fucking babysitter at times. And plus like I was the one always driving and shit. So I didn't get a chance to enjoy myself as much as I would have liked to.
Well,
But you know, yeah, I didn't have I, God, finding a female and taking her home the night of the bar. Honestly, I know, I never had like a true one night stand in that manner. Just finding some random chick at the club and going home and doing the dirty bird with her. No,
what are you, Nelly?
actually, I got that from that because
From
I've been listening to some, old hip hop all week long. I've been changing up my music genre every week. So, yeah,
And no, by the time you talk about 21st birthdays, and I don't know if I ever said this on our podcast before, but I was by the time I was 21, my first kid was already born. I was living with the mother. Uh,
The
most of the
mother.
friends I had were female, so I was not in contact with them because that was a no-no. Because the woman I was with was very insecure,
valid.
um, and not that she had any reason. I've never been that kind of person, like to mess around. Um, but yeah, so my 21st birthday was grabbing a case of beer and having two and woohoo! Probably the lamest of lame birthdays because my dad was not a drinker. He was not a bar person at all. Like he never did that. So I think it's funny as I look at it now. My dad probably enjoys an alcoholic beverage now more in his 60s than he ever did when I was growing up in his 20s and 30s. It's just kind of interesting to see how that cycle has changed. He's like, "Oh, you want a drink? You want a drink?" I'm like, "No, I'm good, Dad. Thanks." All
Yeah,
right, I was gonna crack open a bottle of wine. Okay.
my dad's always like had a drink, like nothing where it's excessive, but like maybe like a beer here, a beer there, or he'd open up like get his rock glass out and pour a little whiskey in there or bourbon or whatever and just sip on that for the evening or whatever the case may be or whatever. But he wasn't yeah, he wasn't anything. He's always kind of been like that. So it was funny, like when I turned 21, um, we met up with some of his coworkers and they were all different ages and they were buying me drinks left and right. I can't even fucking tell you how many beers I had. It was definitely over 20. I do know that. And a couple shots in between. Yeah, I was pretty much gone to the wind. I remember
Puke it out the
after
window.
I remember after I do remember majority of the night. Bits and parts I don't remember, but we went to what was it was a diner. Can't remember. It was in Allentown. I'm trying to remember.
If it's a diner in Allentown, I'm gonna assume that this many years ago, it's probably not open anymore, unless it
I
was the Ham Fam. That would be
I
the only one that's still open.
I don't remember the name of it. Wasn't one. It was a semi-popular one. I just don't remember what the name of it is. I don't think it is open because I remember the last time I was up. Well, I came up for WrestleMania. I had gone to Target in up in Allentown, and I kind of just driving around to see what was there and what wasn't anymore. And I remember going around that area where that diner used to be, and it's not there anymore. But yeah, we're at the diner, and I didn't puke or anything, but and there was people that knew. It was like me, my dad, his friends were all at the diner, and I just hear like, "Wow, he's really gone." Yep, 21 today. I was like, "Oh, okay." It was like it was a big deal, And then them telling everybody, "Yeah, I've got the 21-year-old here." Yeah, okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for throwing me under the bus, but it's all right.
Watch where you walk.
I got free alcohol all night, so I didn't pay for shit. So I felt like a female. Yeah, I'll take it. It's all good. Yeah, those were days. Those were days. Had some interesting times partying at certain colleges and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
Penn
yeah.
State was always an interesting place to go party and go to clubs at.
Now, are you talking about main
Main
campus, or are you talking?
campus.
Oh,
Oh
main
yeah,
campus.
main
Yeah, I was
campus.
never in a main campus for any of that.
Yeah, yeah. My friend Keisha had gone to she graduated from Penn State. She went to main campus. Yeah, they had some interesting bars and clubs there, and they had a little like trolley bus service that would like drive around where the bars and clubs were. But on the bus, there was a case of beer in the front and a case of beer in the back. So you would hop on and you would like, hey, you want a beer? Grab a beer from the case, and You're drinking on the little trolley bus that's taking you from bar to bar and club to club. So it was like one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Let's crack open another one. Getting free alcohol. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Fun times. Penn State's a
nice.
definitely an interesting place. Main campus is a interesting place to party. I will say that. 100%. Oh, Jeremy just done left us probably because of the kids, the kiddos. No worries. So, Pat, do you have any glorious stories of the Notre Dame partying times?
No.
That makes me sad. I don't like this. We need to get you out more then.
No.
I had to blow my nose.
Oh, we're gonna
No,
make
so he had to
Pat.
do something disgusting.
Oh,
That is right. And I didn't
yes.
feel it was necessary to show everybody my nose blowing techniques.
I mean,
Let's
some
let
of
it
our
loose.
you never know. Some of our viewers might find something beneficial in that, you know.
Oh, look, he does the one nostril trick one at a time, too.
I mean, we could just all crack open a great bottle of Dickens cider. So
Let's not go down the road again.
You know, I sent that link to my older sister
oh
during the
no.
week, and she
Like,
didn't respond to it at all, so I have no idea if she even clicked on it to look at it, but I was disappointed.
That is disappointing.
Because my younger sister, if I sent that to her, she'd be really pissed at me. But my older sister, I figured would get a laugh out of it.
Yeah, because your younger sister is kind of godly, right? She
I mean, somewhat, but she just kind of rolls her eyes at most.
crude humor is not her thing.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
you need to reply to your older sister, be like, yo, video, comment, thoughts,
Well,
question mark.
I sent the YouTube link, and I think with the link as a word, in the message, I just said, "Would you like a Dickens cider?" But spell, Dickens cider, not, the naughty way. So
You love it.
unless when she read it, she caught it, which, that's one of the things that, you may not necessarily catch the first time you see it or read it. So, but no, nothing. So, yeah.
We need a follow up from her. Older sister, we need a fucking follow up on that video, please. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I'll see her on Tuesday, so I might ask her about it then.
We need a reaction from that. But yeah, that is um one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. Just some of the funniest shit. Yeah.
I showed it to my wife. She thought it was funny.
It's just uh
Well,
it's just
if
it's
your wife thought it was
hilarious.
funny, then that's probably a good indication that it's funny.
And the thing about it is, it's it's a legitimately real item. It's a real product. And that's the hilarious part. But whatever. It is what it is. It's comedy. It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was.
Yeah, somebody in marketing took a long time to think about that. What could we call
And
this
you know what?
beverage that will just sound terribly disgusting to a lot of people, but be
And
really funny
and
at the
it
same
might
time?
have been that, or it might not have been that. It's just probably where they just yeah, just let's create this beverage and this is what we're gonna call it because it's named after this person and not even realizing getting the name approved and labeling and when you see the name, it doesn't look, oh yeah, whatever. But when you start saying it and with an accent, it's like, oh yeah, okay. It's kind of funny. A lot funny, at least for me.
See, what really kind of strikes me though too
Yes.
is that the only reason it's funny is because the first word ends with an S and the second word begins with a soft C, which is basically the same sound. So it runs together perfectly. And that's the only reason why it works. But yeah, it's if you just see it in print form, you're not immediately going to go there. You have to say it
Yes.
to hear it, and then as soon as you do, you probably, Like I could picture somebody like in a grocery store or in a liquor store, wherever they sell it, because I don't know if it's alcoholic or not, picking it up, saying, "Oh, Dickens cider." You know,
Oh,
you'll have like other, you might have that reaction, and if other people around you, other people are gonna probably go like, "Excuse me?" You
Pardon
know.
moi.
you want to put a Dickens cider? What? No, I'll get a bottle of Dickens cider. Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, it lends itself to all kinds of potentially embarrassing yet hilarious situations.
Correct. The best thing about it. 100%. Good stuff. Good stuff. Other than that, how's everyone's week been going?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, business extension tax deadline is tomorrow.
Oh, you and
So
your,
it's,
Jesus.
yes. You got to
These
deal with
damn
and
that
businesses get all the
shenanigans.
breaks.
yeah, it's so much fun.
Corporate America, tax break here, tax break there, extension here, extension there.
Well, the problem is,
Under Trump's bill, well,
the problem
sorry.
is just getting the work done and out, and that's not so much on me, but it's like I hear about it. So,
I believe in small businesses. Blah blah blah.
Tax
well,
break
yeah.
free here, tax
I
break
wanted to
free
punch
there.
myself in the face. Not that we're going to talk about debate, but I did watch some of the debate, and I literally wanted to punch myself in the face listening to those two people talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, political debates are like the dumbest thing to watch. Even with some of the changes that they've made to the format, like no live audience, which is a great idea, because having a live
Yes.
audience just makes it a fucking rally for either one of them or both.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but you really don't get a lot of information on those things because it's really more about them sparring with each other, trying to catch each other and saying something stupid. And of course, they will both have a tendency to just say something stupid without being baited in any way, which was proven if you watched the debate this past week.
Yeah.
Um, all kinds of shit like that. So it's just if you really want information, that's not the way to get information. If you want to gauge what the candidates like, how they conduct themselves, I guess maybe you might get something. But yeah, it's like I really just can't watch those things. They
Yeah,
just
I think it's the best way to gauge how unhinged either one can be.
well, one was certainly more unhinged than the other this
Re-
past week,
I
but yeah.
definitely agree with that.
Really, what amazes me is when I'm on social media and I'm looking at people post stuff about debates anymore. It baffles me that people expect them to get in specific details about what their policies are and stuff. I'm like, and these are people that are older than me from the left and the right. And I'm just like, you motherfuckers have been around longer than I have and seen more debates. Give me a time when these politicians legitimately were giving you specific facts about what their policies really are. Very
No,
few and far between in realistic. I've even went back and watched old debates from the 80s and 70s. And they hit on points, what kind of details, but for the most part, they're just talking about themselves to build themselves up and to show what the other candidate can't do or is not capable of doing. It's just gotten to a point where back then it was more civilized.
Hmm.
And then now, because of our mindset in this country and the generations has gone by, the fact that, it's a lot of things, that social media, it gives people, it gives the voiceless a voice. Yeah, but mostly in a bad way because those people think they're Twitter gods or keyboard gods to write shit and their shit means something more than what anybody else's. But it gives them an opinion to bash and, put down and try to humiliate somebody or another group or people, whatever the case may be. But now, like if you legitimately go back and watch all the debates from the last, like from 2016 to now, it's really all it is a fucking shit show, like just trying to shit take jabs at each one of them. They're not really talking true politics or policies. It's just like trying to take, like a hit piece on each other verbally. That's really all it is. It's like a political rap battle. It's kind of how I put it. You know what I mean? If you go to like, I mean,
she's a liar he
Yeah,
lied about this.
yeah. And
She's
like I when I had gone to Toronto back in the day, I went to actual my coworker that I went with, the group of us, he got tickets to like an actual rap battle was in downtown Toronto. It was super cool to see, but yeah, that's what it feels like. It's like a political rap battle where they're taking jabs and dissing each other and all that stuff, and they're barely talking about Palestine or talking around circles. And it's kind of like when I just see the people post like, you guys, like I said, you guys have been around longer. Tell me a time where they gave specific details in a debate, and you were like, no, you're not going to get that shit. Come on
Yeah, I
now.
mean, they can say that they might have done in like the 60s, 70s, because the first like real televised debate was, Kennedy Nixon back in 60. That they gave like more firmer thing because they were more focused about talking about stuff like that than like maybe talking about like personality or this, that, or the other thing.
And it's
But
new then, and that's what they wanted to get across with their specific political agenda.
right, but I mean, like times change, unfortunately. Like, the entertainment divisions took over the news divisions long ago, like the movie network predicted. So you're never
Yeah.
going to get that in a debate for one thing. Um, But again, they're only allowed like 90 seconds or 2 minutes for an answer. What kind of really fully detailed policy position are you going to be able to articulate in that amount of time? You can't do it. So it's like
No, not
you're gonna
not with what they
all
need.
you're gonna get is you're gonna get the generalities. If you want more specifics, yeah, unfortunately, you're gonna have to do your research.
Do your research
Um,
and go to the rallies.
but yeah,
I'm like, I don't know.
that's the only way you're really going to get it. And there's plenty of places out there you can find the information where you can find it where it's not distorted by spin or bias either. So,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, it's like you just go to the candidate's website. Their policy positions will be outlined there. And if you're saying, well, of course that's what they're saying. Well, yeah, but that's what they're saying. That's what you need to hear. But I think as far as like the civility in politics and political debates ending, I mean, the first really weird thing I can remember I think it was like the town hall debate that Bush and Gore had back in 2000, where they had like undecided voters, I never really know if they are or not, you know, seated like 50, 60 people, like, kind of like on the stage with the candidates, and they could kind of like walk up and like Bush was like giving an answer, and like Gore got up to give his response, and he like walked right up behind him practically. I remember like either SNL or The Tonight Show parodying it then by showing then like, you know, Gore like they got into like a fist fight then.
Of course,
So
SNL would do
like
something funny like that.
that was like the first weird thing. And then, there was more little things kind of happening, and there was the time where like McCain referred to Obama as that one, which was a little weird.
Yes.
But obviously, the whole thing fell apart when Trump got into it because Trump puts the bully in bully pulpit. You know, that's his personality. That's his always been his personality. And, CNN showed like a mashup, not a mashup, but a comparison of him from 2016 with him from this past week. And the differences were kind of striking. In 2016, he was much more in control of himself. He was much more restrained. His volume was lower. And he was giving what, if you disagree with him or not, he was giving what you could call cogent points and positions. Then they were showing the clips from this past week. He was much more unhinged. He was much louder, and he was making much less sense. I don't want to be one of the persons who says he's obviously got a mental illness. He does. It's called narcissism. I don't know if
No.
I don't know if I would say he has anything more severe than that, like the things he's accused Biden of having. But it is a little telling. And I don't know if like, is he just not caring anymore about what he says? Or does he just not have the appropriate self-restraint anymore? It's like, I don't think he ever had a lot since he joined the political
Sometimes when you
world
get
to
older
begin
too, you
with,
just
but
don't give a
I think
shit.
it's definitely gone away.
So when I look at it, I think he's one of those people that's really bought into the, what is the word I'm looking for? The conspiracies against himself.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
he really, And I know somebody's probably going to watch this and going to be like, "Oh my God, they're just bashing Trump and that." And if you really listen, we are bashing all political stuff as a whole. We're just making a point because of Trump. And if you really want to know, I'm an in-between person. I don't really go with either side. I like to be in the middle and vote for the best candidate, in my personal opinion, that's going to represent us. Unfortunately, we have not had a lot of good candidates in the last couple of years. Last couple
No,
elections, I should say.
no, we have
Um,
not.
We really have not.
Yep.
so it's been a shit show for quite a while now. But yeah, I really think that he has been somebody who has, since he got in office and all these things came out, like they were, trying to impeach him and all these things, he became a little paranoid and, he's looking for anything that he can throw at the wall that will kind of stick, that makes his opponent look bad. And there's plenty of things that he could, but it doesn't have to be crazy stuff. There's plenty of things that each candidate has done that you could throw out there and be like, okay, this is a bad thing that they've done, and you can say how you would do it differently, and make it better, or fix the problem, whatever you want to do. And unfortunately, that's not what he's doing. He's just painting the picture, and then it goes off in these crazy tangents of they're eating the dogs and cats. I was like, what the fuck
And then we
is
retract a
going
couple
on?
days later and like, oh, it's not that. It's the geeses and the ducks. The thing, like the conspiracy theory part is just I
It's kind of a bit
understand.
much.
I understand what you're saying. There's so many conspiracy theories has kind of taken over so much in the past like 8, 9 years. Like I feel every year there's more and more. There's always something coming out. Um, and it's just like we have all these sites who throw opinions and try to like take little pieces and make up, oh my God, like this could be this, or no, this could be that. Like they're taking a little moment in time and trying to spin and like try to see, like create all these narratives or these stories of what it actually means or what it could be. I feel, and it's funny, like I'm thinking about this. I'm like, I think some of these conspiracy theory people have watched, unfortunately, need to stop watching like specific movies because they're getting their ideas from all these fucking crazy movies that are being made and stuff like that. But it's like the conspiracy theory is gone down this huge rabbit hole, and it's something we're probably never going to be able to get out of because there's so much. Like just like, there's a report. There's supposed to be some ABC insider, um, whistleblower. Um, Kamala was wearing wireless earbud earrings, and they showed where people were at like a gun show or something or some fucking tech thing, and they had these wireless earbud, earrings for sale. And I'm like this is the stuff. They see
Yeah.
something and they just want to gravitate towards it. And they're like, oh my God,
She
this is what's
happened to know
happening.
the answers much really well. I'm like, it's called practice, you freaking weirdos. Like, if you
And this
practice
is
for a debate, regardless if you know the question that's being asked or not, they probably have an idea. We're probably going to ask it. And if you watch any debate, they usually ask the same questions
Right, exactly.
every freaking debate. So you can
yeah.
just pretty much be like, okay, they're probably going to ask a question about this type of topic. How would you answer this? And then you prep for it. And then you're like, okay, I'm prepared, doing the best I'm going to do. And then you go out and they ask a question that's close. And then you're like, okay, this is what I would do. And usually it's not the answer to anything because it's the most convoluted answer that you could give that doesn't really tell you anything about anything.
And
So, yeah.
in conspiracy theory says,
I have the concepts of a plan.
in, cons in conspiracy theories, unfortunately, has, you know, the rabbit hole it's gone down, it's kind of the truth is not the truth. Don't listen. This isn't the truth. This isn't the real truth. This is the truth. Like the conspiracy theory is now supposed to be the real truth when it's
Well,
not the actual real truth. And this has got so many people in a fucking shit show and an
well,
uproar. It's bad.
well,
It's really
that's
bad.
that's pretty eerie too, the way you just said the truth is not the truth, because that is something that Rudy Giuliani said
Yeah.
on television, I think during the 2020 election. He said the truth is not the truth. And this is also, of course, when we've got people talking about like alternative facts or
Yeah.
like, and then of course you have like the converse people saying, "Well, fuck your feelings. It's all about facts," and then those same people run away from facts.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
love
this
I
is
love the
this
facts,
isn't.
not your feelings thing. Like,
Yeah,
would you like to give me a real fact, or would you like
yeah,
to give me a fact that you made up to
yeah.
sound real?
I mean, this is an unfortunate effect of, as wonderful as the internet is. This is an unfortunate effect of how the internet, but really not even so much the internet, but much more so, um, social media has
Mm,
Yeah.
distorted things.
yeah.
And the problem is, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, all those other cliches. The problem also is that these social media sites don't care about regulating or trying to, prevent any of this. I mean, Facebook gave up a long time ago. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call Elon's, jizz factory anymore. He's made his positions abundantly clear.
Yeah.
He can call himself a free speech absolutist all he wants. He's talking out of his fucking ass, with stuff that he's done. There's the evidence is out there. I can't remember every specific thing, but there's plenty of instances where he's like blocked things, not blocked things, and
So I have a
so
I have a
it's yeah,
I have a
it's just
question
it's
for
like
you
it's
guys
like
then.
please don't ever say that you're getting information from social media because you're not.
You're getting the wrong information. So here's a question. Has tribalism in politics taken the cue from tribalism in wrestling, or is tribalism in wrestling taking the cue from tribalism in politics?
I
I would say tribalism in wrestling followed just because of when AEW
Yes.
started, because there wasn't this tribalism when WWE was running roughshod. I mean, when WCW still existed and ECW, the internet was still in its kind of nascent stages. So there wasn't enough of it then. And during the years where it was just WWE and TNA became increasingly irrelevant as like the 2000s and the 2010s wore on, I don't think anybody really gave a shit. I don't
Yeah.
think the current tribalism in wrestling definitely didn't start until AEW started, and obviously that was after Trump became president. So I would have to say the tribalism in wrestling followed, at least the current
Yeah.
tribalism. Obviously, there
Yeah.
was
They
a
got the
tribalistic
cues.
nature to wrestling in the territory days, but you couldn't really feel it because you didn't have the ability to just log onto your computer and see what was going on out in the other territories.
Yeah. I I don't know if they really followed each other, but it definitely became more prevalent in the regards that, as mentioned, with social media, with ease of access to information, it is very easy to polarize and be polarized in regards to, well, I like this and this is bullshit and this is sucks and yours is terrible and no, yours is terrible. They don't even know how to write storylines and all you got is really good wrestling with nothing to go off of. Like you're not going anywhere and you're not really making money and it's turned into that. And and that's kind of where the political landscape is. And so could you say wrestling kind of followed that nature? Sure. Um, but I think
Took
it
cues
really
from
does
it.
have more to do with the fact that social media is out there and people just want to put out talking points, whether they're political talking points or wrestling talking points, that polarize people. And, instead of just saying, okay, you like what you like and I like what I like, and we both like wrestling, that's cool. Um, it can't be like it's not allowed to be like that. You either have to like what I like, or you're an idiot, or you have to believe what I believe, or you're an idiot.
Pretty
And
much.
it shouldn't be like that. It's so funny. Like you talk about like we have topics at work during our onboarding training for people that are people coming into our company, and we talk about stuff like this. And I have yet to talk to anybody during that. And I'm sure people hold their P's and Q's because it is a work environment, but that
Of
have
course.
tried to interject the fact that somebody is wrong for the way that they think, which is good. I'm glad people are able to hold their P's and Q's, and keep those conversations work appropriate. Um, But I'm actually kind of surprised because you would think, based on the way that social media presents the world, that everybody would be like that and nobody would be able to have discourse and be able to talk without insulting others and belittling them.
Yeah, I think with that, it's kind of like behind the keyboard, there's not as much consequences to your your thoughts or your comments as your consequences would be face to face in an actual environment. Because that aspect, if they take it too far, be like, oh, you're within your 90 days. Catch you later, buddy. You're outie. You're out of here. We don't need your services anymore. Thanks. Go find another job. So your
Yeah.
consequences, definitely mean a little bit. I have your comments and actions have more consequences in person than they do behind a keyboard or
Yeah.
behind this. What we're doing.
I mean, you mentioned though it's like very easy to polarize somebody. There was something I was seeing on my Facebook feed. It's popped up. It's the same post, but it's popped up a couple different times over the last few days. I'm trying to see if I can find it now just to see what it says. But it was something that's just basically indicating about how easy it is, to get somebody into like a particular mindset. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I have no idea where this source came from. Again, this is somebody that I'm in a Facebook group with, just posted. So I don't know where this comes from. And so unfortunately, it's one of those things that, that sounds right. In the
Hmm.
60s, the KGB did some fascinating psychological experiments. They learned that if you bombard human subjects with fear messages nonstop in 2 months or less, most of the subjects are completely brainwashed to believe the false message, to the point that no amount of clear information they are shown to the contrary can change their mind. Now, again, I have no idea how valid that is, but it's definitely one of those things that feels right. And because we kind of see that through what social media, I think, and a lot of these sites can do to people. And, I have my position and I might have my side, and I've never been afraid to say that. But I find that that's much more so on the right because there's a hell of a lot more right-wing provocateurs than there are left-wing provocateurs because it's the same reason why somebody said years ago, and it was kind of borne out when it happened, conservative talk radio thrives and liberal talk radio never took off because liberals aren't interested in hearing their views repeated back to them ad nauseum, where conservatives seem to be.
Mm.
You can debate that. I'm not going to say you can't,
Well,
but
so pause right there. I will tell you, just based on the social media myself, I see a lot more conservative channels out there that go out to these. I will label them as liberal. Okay, don't know if they really are, but I'm going to assume that they are based on the content that they're putting out and what
Loosely
the
assume.
rallies and stuff. But they go out and purposely try to interview people at these things, knowing that they are going to cause a disruption and that they are going to get hate for it because they're not going there with the intention, most of them, I won't say all of them, most of them are not going there with the intention to actually gain knowledge. They're going there with the intention to spark fuel and flame a fire,
Yes.
or fuel a fire, not flame a fire, fuel a fire.
Mhm.
So I can understand where you're with that sense of conservatives like to hear and like to cause trouble. Now, unfortunately, those are the people that are putting themselves out there in the social media aspect for people to see it, and people are like, "Oh, this is great. See, they're all so unhinged." They would be unhinged if you actually went there with the purpose of trying to conversate with them. And the environment you're trying to do in is probably not the best environment because you're going there during one of their peaceful rallies and most of the time, they are peaceful until people provoke them to not be peaceful on either side. Um, so, yeah, you're actually the problem in this situation, not the people that have already been there that are just trying to make their voices heard in the best way that they know possible. So, who's in the wrong here? Continued,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's left-wing outlets that go to Trump rallies and, they interview people. Now, you never know exactly all what's out there because you don't know all what they do and don't post from like what they get.
Yeah.
But a lot of what they post is just asking questions of the people who are there, being respectful, bringing up like, no, 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 that's not true when something's not true or what have you. But, really keeping it civil. I mean, like some of the people are more than happy to talk, and so, and credit to those people for not being afraid to back away, even if what they say is, to me, crazy. Um, some people, do get agitated, and it's like, you know, not much else you can do. It's like
And they
if
use
if
that for
you're if
clickbait
you're
when they
if
get
you're
the
confronting
agitated
somebody
ones.
with like a fact that they don't want to hear, there's really just not much you can do about it. It's like one of the things. I know we're getting a little too down this, but one of the things that they keep saying a lot now is like, oh, they want to abort babies even past the point of birth, which is so ridiculous. I can't even get started on it. But it's like if you try to tell somebody who believes that it's not true, wow, it's not pleasant.
Yeah,
But
you get a fury storm back at you.
they believe that people who are pro-choice literally want birthed babies killed, which is definitely then because the baby has been born, is definitely called murder.
Yeah.
You know,
Pretty much.
not pretty much. It is,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah,
Yes,
Joe.
I know, I know, I
there are
know.
people who seriously believe this shit, and Trump says it a lot. So what are you supposed to
Yeah,
do
he said
about it?
that during the debate. I was like, what? Like, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's like
How's that even possible?
I mean, all you can keep doing is saying no, that's not true. But there's going to be like a dig in your heels moment there too, where as much as you can say no, that's not true, and of course it's not true, but people are still going to believe it, and I just not much you can do there.
No.
You know, there's like that's not a position where it's like, well, we're going to agree to disagree. No,
And just so you understand, the Earth is flat.
Even though my
We do
boss was
not
just
circle anything. All
just
right.
even though the owner of my company was just in space and took videos, yeah. Oh yeah. So speaking of that, so since the owner of my
Oh, is he
company,
on Virgin? Was he on Virgin Mobile's like space rocket?
no, that's not Virgin Mobile. That's Elon
Uh,
Musk's space
oh, it's
rocket.
Elon Musk. I thought
Yes,
Virgin Mobile was doing that too. Not
they
Virgin
are.
Mobile, just
But
Virgin.
yeah, so it was my owner of my company is, did the civilian space flight thing, right? And
Somebody has a little bit too much money.
hey,
yeah,
you
think
you created a company that's he's a billionaire now. So yeah, um, he paid for he paid for 3 or 4 flights. So whatever. Let's
Good for him.
and you know what? People, let me just say something. People always complain about how millionaires and billionaires spend their money, but the same aspect, it's like, well, they're the smart ones who have created this business and are millionaires and billionaires. So they can spend their money however the fuck they want to, legitimately. A lot of them do good. Like the owner of my company, like he does a lot with St. Jude. He's always trying to raise money for St. Jude and stuff like that. So kudos to him for that. That's something that's near and dear to him. So great. Not a lot of millionaires and billionaires do stuff like that
He
for
does it
that.
because he gets a tight tax write-off, Joe. Come on now.
Yeah, I know. We'll get that feedback too. Um, but it is what it is. I saw people posting, why aren't they going up in space and saving the 2 astronauts that are stuck? Da 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 da. It's like you just see like the negativity. It's like, dude, they're up there actually doing research on certain stuff too. Like they're not just going up there to hang out and have fun. They're they're testing out this rocket. They're testing out these new suits that they're using. They're doing some testing, some projects and research and whatnot. So they're doing other things. But it's just funny. What I'm trying to get at is there was a picture that was taken from the spaceship, and someone was like, "Look, you could tell this is fake. This is just like the moon landing. Look at the Earth, and to the left, it's all black, and you can't see any stars." And he's like, went on this rant, and I'm like, "Bro, Are you serious right now? And then people are like, bro, you're dumb. And then people are like, no, he's right. Look at it. It looks fake. It's photoshopped. And I was like, I
Do they
was like,
understand why you can't see the stars when you're in space?
I'm just baffled. Like the common sense. And here's nothing. Common sense is not common anymore these days, unfortunately. It really isn't. Really is not. But what I was going to get with at that is I was going to transition over to since we brought up lawsuits earlier. Um, the
Yeah.
the AEW lawsuit that was brought upon by former announcer Kevin Kelly and the
Kevin
inf
Kelly.
in
No.
the infamous Tate brothers, Brandon and Brent Tate, had brought a lawsuit against AEW in which they aim to void the arbitration clause of their talent contracts and request the court to certify a class action suit against AEW regarding claims the company is misclassifying its wrestling talent as independent contractors rather than employees.
Here we
Woo.
go again.
Yes. So RVD was interviewed. So speaking on One of a Kind with RVD podcast, Rob Van Dam shared his thoughts on the lawsuit. So I'm just going to read to you what he specifically said.
Are we talking
Um,
about This Brandon Tate, is he a former football player?
no,
No.
No,
Okay. Just double checking.
no. Um,
not as far as I know.
no. So, um, I'm sorry. Here we go. I need to do this too. He noted that lawyers tried to get similar cases going during his time in WWE and it never worked out. RVD also stated that someone asked him if he wanted to talk to an individual who was heading a lawsuit regarding wrestlers being treated as independent contractors, and he confirmed that it was Andrew Yang. He also noted that he opted not to speak to Yang. So his comments, this is a quote from RVD. I thought about it just for the controversial value of it, but I feel pretty firm on my beliefs. I'm going against the grain. I'm not conforming to everybody else. Some people will tell me they just assume. I'm sorry. That's not fair. How you guys get treated. You get treated like you're employees with the job, but they don't pay you like employees. That ain't right. Hey, Brownies, bro. Don't start telling me that you get my perspective when you haven't heard it, RVD. Then his next quote, that was kind of just basically him kind of being like, you don't know my side of things. Stop trying to put things, put words in my mouth. And then he goes on, when you are an employee for a place, you work for an employer and then you get paid by the hour, whatever. And then they take out the taxes, whatever the terms are that comes with the job as an employee. When you're an independent contractor, basically you're your own boss. And then you set the terms of the agreement with somebody and then you honor those terms. I always enjoy doing business like that. I always say this, if you're not with me, listen to this. Would you rather work for me and get paid X amount of money and I'll pay your insurance? You'll be my employee, or would you rather get XX amount of money? You're an independent contractor. You take care of your own insurance. This usually wins people over. When you're an independent contractor, that's how it goes. You take care of yourself. You set up your own different bank accounts where you have to put money away for this, money for that. I've always enjoyed that. The insurgents is a big factor because they think if you're an employee, then you get insurance. Okay. Also, if you're an independent contractor, if I signed a 3-year deal with somebody and said, hey, you know what? This is a deal breaker. I need you to cover my insurance. Guess what? They cover it. If I said I need to have a bus, they're going to cover it or not. That's just negotiating. RVD went on to say, noted that some wrestlers negotiated the bus and other perks, but that was the way business worked. He goes on to say, personally, I'm not for equal treatment. I think unions tend to equalize everybody at a rate that I don't necessarily want to give up personally. If it ends up better for everybody else, I'm moving on. All the young guys are coming up. It's really better for everyone else to be employees and then fill out the employee form if it works better in the future. I wouldn't want to stop anybody from being able to achieve the upgrade in life. But for me, whatever you need, put it in the agreement, RVD said. Then he goes on to say, we don't all need the same terms. We certainly don't all get paid anywhere near the same. And should we? It's the entertainment business. Do we all have equal value? It's been even hard to compare when you're talking about who's selling the tickets and who are the people happier to see and who's keeping the people from turning the channel versus the people that they don't care about. But we need people to fill those spots. We can't pay them as much as the other people, can we? There's just so much to it. I've always loved being an independent contractor and taking care of myself. I feel like it's your responsibility, that it's a better way. It works for you. So that's the way I've always looked at it. So pretty much this lawsuit, once again, is pretty much trying to get them to be employees and not independent contractors. So they all have insurance, they all get equal pay, all that jazz.
I
But
don't think that equal pay is necessarily something that this lawsuit is trying to bring about. I think challenging the independent contractor status is much different than saying equal pay for everybody. So I
I
think RBD is
it
missing the point
was
with what he
it,
says.
it so I did find more info on the lawsuit, and there is a part in there about pay equality as well.
I mean, I think it's really more about, again, just the fact that you're not really an independent contractor when you can't decide when and where you're going to work. That's what an independent contractor can do. You know, back in the territory days, again, this still applied because you could just be like, oh, I don't like the way Vince is booking me. I'm going to go work for Crockett. I'm going to go work for Vern. I'm going to go work for Fritz, whatever. It hasn't been like that definitely since the end of WCW and ECW.
So can I give a quick take on this that makes it maybe make a little bit more sense to
Yeah.
our viewers? So, my brother owns a company, and his employees, at least the ones that drive, are independent contractors. They decide whether or not they want to take a run. And that's in their contract. They do not have to take a run. Now, they can't work for any other competition in the fact that that is a conflict of interest working for other competition. So they are, in a sense, they are only allowed to work for him. Now, they can cancel at any time. They can say, I no longer want to work with you, and then they leave and go to another company.
Yeah.
But they are independent contractors in the full sense that they get paid based on the work that they do. They can choose whatever jobs they want to take. And as soon as they're like, I don't want to be here anymore, they can leave. There is no 2 weeks notice. They could do it the same day. There is none of that kind of. So those are employees that are fit the true contracted employee, because they do sign an agreement and things like that based on what they'll get paid per run and things like that, bonuses, things like that based on the runs and everything like that. But they are true in that sense. They are a true contracted employee. WWE, to my understanding, everybody's a contracted employee, but there are things in their contract in regards that they have to fulfill before they can actually leave. Like, they couldn't just up and just be like, you know what, I'm done, because there could be things that could come against them that breaks their contract. That's in their contract. Like, there's a lot of legality in their contracts that keep them from just being like, you know what, I'm done. Like back in the territory days, where they could just be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not coming back to this territory. Boom, I'm gonna go to this territory. It's very different the way those contracts are structured now, to make sure that people just don't up and leave one day, unless they want to lose out on a bunch of perks and stuff like that they would not be entitled to. So sorry, I just wanted to interject that, because I think it helps kind of put the emphasis on what a really contracted employee would look like compared to what you're seeing now.
Just to clarify, the Tate brothers were the boys. They were part of Dalton Castle's group.
Yeah, they were irrelevant in AEW. We'll just say that.
Well,
and in the world of AEW, they were irrelevant.
So the lawsuit kind of comes from a couple things. So Kevin Kelly feels like he was fired um, inappropriately, and the Tate brothers also feel like they were fired inappropriately, if I'm using the right word, in regards to that, because the Tate brothers were told that they were no longer needed because Tony Khan said that they had missed multiple bookings and did no shows, which the boys have denied. So there was a back and forth between them, and there was a back and forth between Kevin Kelly and Tony Khan about the reasons why he was let go by AEW as well. So, I mean, I get, there was a lot of things in there in regards to the contracts, the differences between independent contractors and employees, pay, things of that nature. So, like, I get what RVD's saying because, like, pro wrestling is entertainment, always has been, you know, and Vince would negotiate content contracts to a certain extent, but I from what I've read and heard from other former wrestlers that worked for WWE, it all depended on what type, where you were on the pecking order. If you were near the top, you would allow more perks or more days off or this, that, and the next thing. If you were down further in the pecking order, then not so much. It seems Triple H is more, lenient and understanding in regards to someone's life and understands the toll that professional wrestling takes. And Tony Khan actually, to a certain extent, I think does as well, because I get what RVD is saying, where, I think a lot of people who do go to AEW like the work schedule, but also, a lot of them still are allowed to do indie shows or allowed to go work for New Japan because they have a working relationship, or some of them show up at CMLL. I mean, I know they have a working relationship with them, but they're allowed to do like indie shows and things of that nature. So it's the freedom to be still getting paid by AEW, but have the ability to be an independent contractor still and get paid by these independent shows to make appearances, so on and so on. So
Well,
yeah, it's
but those working agreements, I think, also kind of show that the independent contractor part of it's ridiculous because, of course, they can go work for those companies because they have a working agreement. Like, there's nothing
but
that's
they
like
still got to
preventing you
get
from doing
paid
that.
by them. Like CML is
Well,
still going to pay like Mercedes to show up at a show and stuff like that.
right, but what I'm saying is that that's if they didn't have that working agreement, I doubt they'd be able to go work for those people.
I think it depends on who they are. There
Do
might be.
you know I am?
Do you know my name is Mercedes Monet and
I
I'm a
mean, the more
female
interesting
wrestler?
things though in the lawsuit too are not so much the independent contractor stuff. Like the Tate brothers, yeah, they're saying they were defamed by Tony Khan when they said, oh, they no-show shows. There was Cornette talked about this months ago, and he just brought it back up on this current episode, which I was listening to in part before we got on. There was like bad communication about like travel arrangements, and that's why he was saying that they were missing shows when they were contending, well, they'd always flown us out of like Knoxville where they lived, and all of a sudden they were telling us to go to Nashville to fly out, which was like 3 hours away, and they were saying that they weren't getting answers and stuff. So that could be a potential can of worms. You never know.
Yeah.
Um, Kevin Kelly is saying, he was defamed, I guess, and like Ian Riccaboni was saying shit about him. Like, I guess Kevin Kelly did something, liked something about that child trafficking movie that was controversial, that was making a lot of money last year.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so because I guess like he either said like go see this or he liked something regarding it, Ian Riccaboni started saying, "Oh, Kevin Kelly's a part of QAnon," and
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly saying, "No, I'm not," and he's saying that they took him off the air because of that and everything. So there
Might be a
could
little bit of legitimacy to Kevin Kelly's, if
there, I
that
mean there
did
could be
Yeah.
happen.
some potentially ugly shit that comes out of this. You never know.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Time will tell.
I guess Jim Ross felt the need to weigh in right away,
I
and
didn't see what he said.
he
I was going
basically
to.
He basically said, "Oh, Tony Khan's got more money. He'll be able to outlast him." Bah. Yeah, which is like great. That's exactly what the way the legal system's supposed to work.
Yeah, good
Um,
job, JR.
but he also called the lawsuits frivolous. So it's like I don't know if they're frivolous. I mean, and I guess something else, of course, I can always got to bring up Cornette. Cornette's lawyer is the guy who's filed this lawsuit.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Cornette's defending him, saying, dude, he doesn't file frivolous lawsuits. He doesn't need to. So, and obviously there was that long time ongoing lawsuit with that Konstantin Kiros guy who was constantly trying to file lawsuits against WWE on behalf of several former wrestlers,
Yeah.
including Demolition, which is one of the reasons I think a lot of people speculate Demolition's never been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Challenging the status, and those suits always got thrown out for various reasons. I think mostly because they said they didn't have like the recourse to challenge the status, or I think some people also said the guy was just a shit lawyer. So it's like how much money do you take from these poor guys though over the years, I wonder.
Yeah.
Um,
That's bad too.
so it just bears watching because I guess the only comment Tony Khan issued about it was defending JR from people who were getting on him for saying it was frivolous. But Tony, I think, also made sure to get in a plug for All Out during that
Of
conference.
course.
So,
Of course.
I mean, he could very well outlast them with his father's money, not his money. We'll see. It just bears interesting that something like this is happening. That's kind of all the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's people are gonna run with I've already seen people on social media. Swing back to that. I've already just
Yeah, so I'm glad I'm not on
trying.
social media because I'm sure, because like I say, since it's Cornette's lawyer, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are saying, "Oh, this is Cornette's way of attacking AEW now," or
I've
some
seen some
bullshit
of
like that.
that. I've seen some of, Bastion and TK. Yeah, he really runs a safe company, does he? And just going on about a lot of craziness. And you can see the tribalism coming out of it, to be honest
Well,
with you.
one of the problems with this too is that I think when AEW started, somebody, I don't remember if it was Cody, I don't remember if it was the Bucks, I don't remember who it was talking about wrestlers being employees, and it never happened.
Yeah.
But they were the ones who brought it up. Like, I don't think anybody asked, "Hey, are you going to do it like this?" I think they brought it up on their own.
And I'm trying to think too. I think
And those guys, of course, got employee status because they were EVPs.
but I think the contracts for like AEW wrestlers, I'm trying to remember from one of the interviews I think Cody did was where like they get access to the Jaguars like medical team, and I think they it's in their contract that Tony pays for like I don't want to say their insurance, but their insurance or medical bills are part of their contracts or some shit like that.
Well, I think they're supposed to pay for things that happen to them, like on the job, which
Yeah.
isn't full health insurance, but it's like I think WWE's always done that. Like, if somebody gets hurt in a match, WWE is going to pay for the surgery. But of course, Punk brought up that he was having issues with getting them to pay for his stuff when he got hurt. Um, I mean, that's still not like what you would call like full benefits. I mean, it's like it's a
No,
nice perk, but it's not really quite the same.
it's not.
It's not like when we go to work, we get our paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever, however often you get paid, you got your health insurance deductions on there.
Um, so I wanted to change our topic a
Yeah,
little
we've had
bit.
an interesting show today. It's been very off topic for us normally.
So we don't go
Dude,
to
you
the mall
can't
very
just change
often.
a topic on a dime like that. You got to come up with a better transition.
Well, here's my
Yeah, one that Pat
transition.
will mess up. Don't worry, he did that to me already.
Here's the transition. We're gonna go from a geeky topic to a geekier topic. How about
All
that?
right, let's
Oh
let's
my
rock
God.
and roll.
God only knows what this is
Um,
going to be.
so no, it was really cool. At least I thought it was cool. So we were at the mall, and we don't normally go to the mall very often. It's very rare that we go to the mall. But
Lehigh Valley Mall.
my middle child is in eighth grade, so she
Lehigh Valley
has
Mall.
Yes, Lehigh Valley Mall. That thing still exists, believe it or not.
I know. I haven't been there since December.
But
Drive past it every day.
but we went there dress shopping, and my daughter's like, I hope you guys like something that I like. I'm like, we'll
Probably
see.
not.
Famous
So
last words.
it's one of those things. If anybody has a teenage daughter, like I do, that wants to be fashionable, but also is very aware of their body, okay? Which I'm very happy about. She does like the trendy stuff. Sometimes it gets a little too much with how revealing things are, but usually she's pretty good about it. And she picked a very nice dress out. Uh,
Oh, there you go.
and I've accepted the fact that dresses are made the way that they're made. The fashion is the way that it is. But she picked something that was not revealing, that fit her taste, and was dad approved. So,
There you go.
so we were able to find a good happy medium in that. And then there's probably people who are like, well, who cares what you think? I'm her dad. My opinion matters.
Do you
So,
understand the days we live in? Boys are crazier than they were back when we were kids. All right. Thank you very much.
so I'm going to just leave it at that. But my son and we decided to take a walk around the mall because, we waited. We didn't go to every store. We went to the first store and then we let the ladies do what they were going to do. And then I just waited to hear and catch up with them later. But we came across a store yesterday. It is a store, but it's has multiple functions. Not only does it sell, like they have pop figures, they have retro game stuff and things like that. So it's a very unique store. But as we moved towards the back of the store, they sold
Playboy
all the
magazines?
stuff. No, they did. No, definitely not. This is not Spencer's. Um, they had along the one sidewall graphic novels and comic books. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I didn't take time to look at that because I knew my son was not going to be able to pay attention to that long enough. But then towards the middle and other side, they had all this Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, all this stuff for these role-playing
Magic.
games. Like, they had Magic the Gathering. I don't think they had any Pokemon stuff. But it was very interesting. And they had this back room. I'm like, what the heck's going on in that back room?
They play
So
games back there, don't they?
they do.
They have
And
game
one guy,
days.
yes, the one guy had his Magic the Gathering. I was like, well, and my son saw him. He's like, what is he doing? I said, well, he's either playing Magic, he's either got Magic the Gathering cards or he's got Pokemon cards. He's probably got one of the two. And he's like, oh, and my son kept on looking back. I was like, you want to go ask him what he's doing? And he's like, yeah. I was like, well, go ask him. He's like, no. So I was like, okay, we'll go up together. So, I asked the guy what he was doing, and I said, because my son's interested in what you're doing. And so he gave a kind of a brief description of he's like, yeah, it's kind of like Pokemon, but it's different because here's he just gave a quick, what makes the big difference in that. So, and then we saw on the back board, they have tournaments that are open to the public. You pay like a small fee and whatnot. They were supposed to have a tournament from 12 to 4 of Magic the Gathering tournament, but it looked like only 2 people showed up. So it was
jeez.
Unfortunately, those kind of things, unless you know about this and you're really into it, you're probably not going to know that there's a tournament going on at the mall, for Magic the Gathering. But they do Magic the Gathering tournaments. They do Warhammer tournaments there. They have a big table set up for Warhammer. And my son saw it. He's like, what's that? I was like, I think it's Warhammer. Like, I know what Warhammer is, but I have never seen it played ever.
Warhammer is very popular in certain areas right now.
So I knew what it was, but I've never, like I said, never seen it played, never seen it set up or anything like that. So I'm like, I think it's Warhammer. And then so I saw another person. I was like, is this a Warhammer table? They're like, oh yeah, that's Warhammer. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Pretty dope, isn't it?
Yeah, because they set up like buildings and all these different obstacles and stuff like that. And I know the
And then
object, it's
Godzilla
a
comes and
strategy
knocks them all down.
And I know the strategy of the game is you have your army and your goal is to advance your army and take and destroy the other army. Like that's the basic concept. I know it's more involved than that, of course, but
Yeah.
Killing
if you
civilians
if
in the crossfire as you go.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But it's like taking the game
It may
Stratego.
no.
If you, and now I'm gonna date myself. If you ever played the game Stratego, it's like that,
Love Stratego.
but you have a more elaborate game board. You have more things that you can do. You know, it can be a very long, drawn out process to play a game of Stratego, which
Mhm.
I'm going to just assume playing a game of Warhammer can be a very long, drawn out process depending on your strategy and stuff like that and the opponent's strategy. So it was just really cool to see something like that exist where even 5 years ago, we'll say, you would never think a store like that would exist in the mall where people are getting together because, oh my God, you play Magic the Gathering or, oh, you play Pokemon cards. Like that was
Yeah.
just such a non-cool thing to do, like I said, even 5 years ago. So the fact that the store exists for people that really enjoy those type of games, whatever it is, that they can go get to know other people locally that enjoy those things and play in tournaments and stuff like that. And I think it's pretty cool. My son seemed very interested by the fact that these because if you don't know anything about Warhammer, you buy the little figures. Like you get your
Yep.
base set. Like you can buy.
Yep.
There's like tons of these base sets that you can
Oh
buy,
yeah. It
and it
gets
comes with a
expensive after a while.
yeah. Like you have your figures, and then you get I don't know what all comes in the box, but I know you get your figures, and you probably get some board pieces to be able to put together. But what my son didn't know is that the people paint these. Like they're just gray pieces.
Yep.
And people legitimately paint these things by hand. And he's like, how do they paint these little figures? I was like, they have very tiny brushes that they can get in there and paint these figures
And very tiny
in the
hands.
colors that they want. And they have very steady hands to be able to do it.
Someone with big hands like me can't do that.
There was a guy that I worked with when I worked in the office. That is what he would do that while he was answering phone calls. He would paint because he did it for people that would like that played that game. He was very good at painting, so he would
Oh yeah,
paint
you can find the people to
people.
pay to paint your like these are the colors I want and give them your shit and they'll paint them for you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just like, that's crazy, but he was really good at it. So people paid him money to paint figures for him. I was like, that's cool. Crazy, but cool.
Yeah, one of my ex-bosses was into that stuff too. He loved like trying to find like rare pieces to add to his collections to play his games and all that jazz. Yeah, he was definitely into it. Hey, if Henry Cavill likes Warhammer, you better like Warhammer, goddamn it. No.
It seems cool. Like it seems
I
like
feel threatened
something.
now.
Yes.
I feel like it's something that I would enjoy because I do like strategy games. I just don't know if I could put the time and effort into learning how to play the game. Like there's a lot that goes into playing those type of games. It's not like you just pick it up and you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And I don't think I have the time or the patience to be able to learn that kind of game.
Yeah.
Like I
Even
want to pick up and play Strategio with my son, but one, it's way above his age level and his knowledge level, and two, it's a lot. It's not. It's Stratego like Warhammer. It's not just one of those games you just pick up and start playing. Like there's,
no,
it's a pain
they're
in
all
the
like
ass
that.
kind of
Even
game, but I like it.
even Magic too. Like people go out and like search. Like you can get all the Magic cards you want, but you have to know how to create a specific deck to play the game. And there could be there's not just one magical deck to pun intended magical deck to put together that's going to win you every game. There's a lot of different really good decks you can, put together and make it easier for you to win, but it's not going to be a guarantee. So yeah, there's a lot of goes into all these games. I've I tried Magic way back in the day. At the time, it was just I was wanting to go to clubs more often. I wanted to go out more often and play that, but
I
it is
thought
what it
about
is.
doing the geeky stuff, but I decided I wanted to socialize and try to get some with other.
Yeah, pretty much.
But what I thought was really cool about this guy's deck, and I say guy because he was a guy, he wasn't a kid, um, is all the cards, and I don't know how if it's all like all this for all Magic the Gathering, but they were like those foil cards. They were all like
Those are the
very
special
shiny.
cards.
Yeah, and all his cards were those. Like he didn't have any like plain blah cards. Like they were all the shiny foil reflective cards. I was like, damn, this guy's got some rare ass shit.
He's getting all the good stuff. That's really what he's getting. Like
Really
he has the
shiny.
he has the good decks. Like, yeah, he's paid some money. He's paid good money for those decks too.
Yeah,
To play those games at a level he's probably playing them at.
yeah. But yeah, he
Where's
was just
there's
okay.
down here I've been noticing there's more places like that. I found a place called Hidden Block Games. They just opened up their second location, or they're going to be opening up their second location, I think, end of this month or October. But they have Pokemon cards. You can trade in old video games, trade in Pokemon cards. They have a section in the back where you can play Magic, and you can play Magic tournaments they do every weekend, I think every Saturday evening and Sunday afternoons. And then they do like Pokemon tournaments too with the cards and stuff like that. But they have like N64 games, PS1 games, the Vita games, and then they have like Sega Genesis games. They have all stuff like retro gaming stuff, and then the top they have like special edition like video game consoles that they have like a lot of them still in the box. Um, and then they have a glass case that has like rare video games, like the expensive ones you can buy. And it's crazy because Nico, we went there a couple weeks ago, and Nico said, he goes, Daddy, I have that game, and it's $600. It's a Nintendo DS game. He's like, yeah, there's like four games in that series. He goes, I have all four of them. So I'm like, that specific one they were selling. He's like, I have the case and everything. It's like $600. So now I got to figure out and go like search to see if any of the other three are worth any money. But it's just, you look at some of the games, you're like, oh shit, I remember the game. Oh man, I forgot about that game. It's like, that game's that much now for a collector's. So they have a lot of stuff. They actually had, I was, I, it's one of those things where you find something rare and you kind of just want to buy it to have it. You know what I mean? Because you
Hmm.
never know, it can go up in price. But they had in the box, it was a Japanese Nintendo 64, and it was like $150. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, do you do you spend the money you don't have to buy this thing because it's a collector's item, or you just kind of let it go? And I'm like, that would have been, I didn't buy it, but that would have been, they get systems like that. They get some cool stuff there. Um, I remember one of the biggest, what was it, a PS3 maybe, was when they came out with the Star Wars Darth Vader edition, limited edition PlayStation. That was like super hard to find. They had one of those. They were selling that thing for like $500. But yeah, they get stuff like that. But they have like similar things. They have like a variety of different like types of toys. Has some Funko Pops there, but like a lot of Japanese or anime ones. But there's a lot of like retro gaming places and stuff like that starting to pop up around this side of North Carolina, around the Raleigh area. And it's kind of cool, to go there. Some of the stuff's like actually decently priced and whatnot, but it's fun to go there and look at all the retro stuff. Hence why I think GameStop's trying to get into it, or is technically getting into retro stores now.
Yeah, GameStop's trying to stay relevant. We walked into GameStop too, and you can tell that the gaming industry has changed as far as the way that they
Yeah.
pursue people to purchase their content anymore. Like they still have games in the like the box games, but there is a lot more of the little tags or downloadable content. Like it is not a store full of games wall to wall anymore. It is like maybe half wall of games now between, and that's between the three main systems: Xbox, PlayStation, and the Switch. Like they
Hmm.
only really have like a half one wall that's dedicated to the rest of it is all like accessories. Their Funko Pop wall is freaking ridiculous now in the GameStops. Like it's the whole one front of the store portion. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is not the GameStop that I grew up in, but and I shouldn't even say grew up in. I should say I remember from being a young adult. Um, but yeah, it's the gaming industry has definitely changed the way that they are, how they sell games to people. It is not the way that
Listen,
it used to be. You don't walk into stores most of the time and look for the game. Like most of the time, you're finding those little tags to be able to download stuff.
I mean, seriously though, like I know the PS5 Pro just came out, and then it was revealed the new Nintendo Switch 2 as well. But like legitimately, like whatever the next version of the, you know, each main company, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, legitimately, I just feel like the next PS6 and whatever the new Xbox is. I didn't really get the details on the Nintendo one, so I can't, talk on that. But like, you're not going to see any discs or cartridges anymore. It's really going to just be digital, and it's going to be about, what type of hard drive you have and, expansions and all that jazz. But you're going to see GameStop's going to turn into a place where they're either not going to exist or they're just going to be a store where they're going to be a novelty store selling, action figures and Funko Pops and the accessories for all the three video game systems like headsets, controllers, because that's a big thing among all three systems. Well, mostly Xbox and PlayStation, like customizable controllers and all the crazy headsets for gaming and all that jazz, microphones and all that stuff. So it's going to be even more of a crazy different dynamic than it already is, or it's trending to at this point. I think that's why GameStop is trying to get into the retro because, fitting some of their stores as retro because people are really kind of gravitating back towards like retro systems. I mean, I got a Nintendo 64 2 years ago. I have it sitting right here to the left of me. I have my WrestleMania 2000 cartridge I kept from my original Nintendo 64. I still have my see-through purple and black controllers that I had from my original Nintendo 64. I kept those. So I already had controllers and stuff, but I remember I turned the game on and I remember how I created myself and some of my friends and I created like CWA titles on there. Um,
I have no idea
uh,
what you're talking about.
and where you were able to do custom belts and all that jazz and um hardcore titles and all that. And I, created myself and some other people and they were stuff was still saved on there. So it was kind of cool. But yeah, they're kind of, they're a little bit slow and clunky, but they're still fun to play. I was playing
No,
Donkey Kong 64 the other day. It was a blast.
it was funny because they had the retro controllers in there for like N64 and stuff like that. They were selling them, and my son goes, what controller is this game? What game system is this controller for? I was like, that was for N64. He's like, how did people even use this controller? I said it was probably one of the worst design controllers of all time, bud.
I love that controller. I so love that controller. That controller was awesome. I between the two systems I had given up that I wish I'd never did was the 64 and the Sega Dreamcast. I loved the Dreamcast. That was like I love that system.
All right.
Did you ever
Well,
show him the
gentlemen,
old? Did you ever show him an old NES controller then with how rectangular it was and
yes, they actually had. So at this store, which was really cool, is they had an original NES, the Model One, version one, and I showed them. I said, "This is what your dad started playing video games on." And then they had,
pathetic.
and then they had. I forgot that they even did this because we never had it, and like it wasn't a thing that you kind of did. Like, oh, they came out with the new game system. Go get this one. Um, they had the NES, this version 2, which looks retarded. Oh,
Oh,
I
the
shouldn't say that. I
mini.
said looks ridiculous.
This, yeah,
So
the redesigned smaller one. Yeah,
yeah, because
yeah,
it had a top load
yeah.
and kind of like the N64 did. As like it looked ridiculous. Sorry for using.
They created that one after they came out with the Super NES because that was a top loader, and they
Yes.
wanted to like like reintroduced the NES and they made it a top loader, and
I
that was
know.
like the second version of it.
Yeah, and then they didn't have a Sega Genesis there, but they did have the Slim PS2 there, which was
Ooh,
interesting because I don't remember the Slim PS2
I
either
remember that.
because we just had the original PS2.
I remember seeing them, but I remember them like not being like significant.
I think they brought out the Slim PS2. I think like it was like 7 months before the PS3 dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those weird things where they decided to drop the Slim less than a year before the PS3 came out, which made
Right.
zero sense to me, but
Yeah,
whatever.
because we had a PS1 and then we had a PS2. Like we had those two systems. Because our game systems went Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PS1, then PS2. And then we were all too grown up, so we moved out.
Yeah,
And then I had nothing.
my video game console history, we had an old Atari. I think it was the 7800.
Yeah, we
Ooh.
had an Atari too. That was my dad, so I don't include that
Yeah.
one.
Then we had an NES, and then I switched to Genesis. I can't really remember exactly why.
Because of
After all
Sonic the
those years in
Hedgehog,
Nintendo, it might
that
have been
was
because of Sonic. It might have also been, you know what it might have also been? This is going to
Street
sound really
Fighter.
funny. The WWF Royal Rumble game that was released in like I want to say it was 1993. They had different
Yeah,
rosters in
yeah.
the Genesis and the SNES versions. The Genesis version had Hogan, the SNES version didn't. So that might have been part of it too. But then I was sat out like the next round. Like I never had a PS1 Dreamcast or N64, and then I got both a PS2 and a GameCube. And then I never bought another console again until I just bought the Switch a couple months ago.
I had
Which I've spent doing three things: playing Super Mario 3, playing Mario Kart 64, and playing Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga.
I had I
I'm
had the
pathetic.
I had the NES. My dad bought the NES for me for my birthday like a year later after it came out. Um, I never had a Sega Genesis. I bought one way later in time. I had the NES, then I got a Super Nintendo, and then I started working. So then I bought myself a PS1, and then I used to trade stuff in. Like I kept my PS1, but I was working, then I bought a GameCube. I bought a Sega Dreamcast. Um, I bought a 64. I didn't go back to PlayStation until like a couple years ago. I got a PS4 right before the PS5 came out, so I can get a discount on that. Wasn't expensive. There's another system though, I think I'm missing in the 90s. The Dreamcast, the GameCube. I feel like there's another one I
The
had.
Jaguar, the Lynx.
Well, I have a Lynx. I actually bought a Lynx at a flea market, and I made the guy and like plug it in and make sure the shit works. So I have a um
Buy that. Make sure it works first.
Yeah, that
um
sounds like a good idea.
so he had a T. I was like, I'm not buying this unless I know it works because um yeah, I have a Lynx. I think it's a Lynx or a Jaguar, one of the two. Yeah, Jaguar or Lynx, whatever, the Atari version. Um I feel like there's a disc one though that I'm missing from the 90s, and I can't think of what it is.
Well, you said PS1 and Dreamcast, right?
Yeah, and I had a GameCube. I
I
feel like
can't
there's
really
one.
think of what it might have been then.
I'm trying to think of what. I'm having a brain fart. I'm gonna have to look
Yeah,
this up. I'm gonna look this up.
I'm not 100% sure because
Anyway, one of
Sega
the
didn't
reasons
have
I
Sega was
brought
the
up
Dreamcast.
Oh, and then
one
I
of the
got all
reasons
the
I
X.
just
I've
brought
had
up
all the
the
Xboxes because I've been an Xbox guy.
yeah. One of the reasons I just brought up the NES and the NES controller is because the way I would always play the NES, it was like you're playing it like this. I wasn't playing it like this. I was always playing it like this. So I've always said that my thumbs bend back like this because of the way I play Nintendo. I
I
always
have
said
you
this is
check
my
your
this is my
thumb.
this is my this is my Nintendo thumb. Look, like I feel no pain. I feel nothing bending it back this far. And somebody
Yeah,
said, "Oh, that just means you're double jointed." I said, "No, it's because of the way I play Nintendo. Goddamn it!"
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the way I played Nintendo, I couldn't like be pressing them with like the tips of my fingers. It was like with the knuckles.
Well, when you have hands that size, man.
I didn't have hands this size then. It was 30 years ago. Throw me a freaking bone here.
I never had a Neo Geo. I can say that.
Oh, the Neo Geo. Oy. I don't
I
know
don't
anybody
even
that
know
had the
what the
Neo
hell you're
Geo.
talking about.
Listen, uh, the Dreamcast controller was also kind of crazy. Oh, you know what? I saw this on a video I watched from this guy, and I remember seeing this, but do you remember the Panasonic 3DO?
Vaguely.
Did you have the Commodore 64?
No.
You have died of dysentery.
I guess the Sega Dreamcast was the one I was thinking of, but yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I've only owned two plays. Well, I have a PS5 now because I got that for my son for Christmas. But yeah, I was always like a big X when Xbox came out, I was just a big and I just loved the games that they had and all that
Was
jazz.
it the Sega Saturn?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's one we didn't mention.
Well, I found this website that has like all these different game systems that came out in the 90s. The Sega Saturn came out in 94.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Saturn was in between Genesis and Dreamcast, I think.
Yeah, that would have been a disc, a
Yeah,
CD
no,
style
actually
disc.
I had gotten I had picked one of those up later on too. I think it
Funny thing
was
is, I'm looking at a picture of the Sega Saturn and it doesn't look entirely dissimilar from a Dreamcast.
yeah. I think the Dreamcast, I think I just my brain was misinformation and giving myself its own misinformation.
There are some game systems that definitely only came out in probably um, in Asia, like Japan and China and stuff like that. Because
Oh
I
yeah,
have
there
never heard of
is.
the Bandai Pippin,
Well, I mean, that's fairly obviously that's Japanese, yeah.
but it was
Listen,
made by Apple Computers.
I I watched there's a person I follow who goes to Japan a lot, video game guy and like anime person. And there's specific stores he mentions to go to if you ever go to Japan and you're looking, because Japan has crazy stores for old collectible like anime stuff and video game systems. And you can find like the special editions still, like in boxes, sealed up in these places. And in US money, like converting the yen to US money, it's really not that bad. It's some of them are cheaper than some of the retro stuff we sell in the US. So it's
Yeah.
just a matter of shipping it back to the US. That's the only issue.
But,
Going
but,
through
Yep.
customs and whatnot.
but by the way, Jeremy, because I just looked at the damn picture of the thing again, you're talking about your son questioning how did you use the N64 controller? Um, there's one of two acceptable answers to that, I think. Okay. One, the D-pad was worthless. So you never needed to worry about pressing that. So you could just hold your hand, like in the middle and on the
Yeah,
right.
D-pad didn't have a lot of functionality for a lot of
Yeah.
games.
So that was one acceptable answer. Two, the other acceptable answer was obviously they expected you to grow a third hand.
Or or grow extra fingers. You need a six finger on each hand to get that to work, brother.
So yeah, but all right. Well, I think this
Evolve,
is.
children.
I think this has been a very eventful show,
Yeah.
and I think we're leaving off on a good note. So we'll call it a day,
Yes.
and we'll leave you with as always. We appreciate you watching, listening. However you're catching this, we appreciate you just tuning in and catching our randomness. Uh, we didn't have anything heavy of a subject as in regards to we didn't go talk about wrestling for 2.5 hours or anything crazy like that. It's like we have in the past. So thank goodness.
It was a
So
boring week of wrestling.
We
So
we
hope
we hit on some topics that we normally don't do though, but bear with
yes.
us.
But I mean, it
But
was a really profoundly boring week of wrestling.
It was.
so with that said, we really do hope you tuned in for the entire show, enjoyed the entire show, and we'll leave you with thank you for tuning in, and we hope you finished with us.